Hello, good evening. Welcome to the video that's taken me months to even plan or record, but inspiration has struck, and this is what we're working with here. So, welcome. It's good to have you. Um, Today, we're just going to jump right into it. This is going to be a brief history of Rory Gilmore's love life from the popular television show Gilmore Girls, which aired from like 2000 to about 2007. And then there was the revival, which came out, I want to say, in 2016. So this brief history is intended to be a little bit more for the Gilmore Girls dummy. If you've never seen the show, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about Rory Gilmore's love life with a little bit of analysis. I want to say it's mostly summary, but I'm sure I'll go off on about 1,000 tangents. So it's probably best that we start because the shorter this is, the better. Anyways, let's move on. First, we're going to introduce the Gilmore Girls. There are three, technically, one being Lorelai, pictured on the left's mother. However, we're not going to be talking about Emily because we're focusing on tumultuous relationships. And Emily actually has a fairly stable relationship with her husband, Richard, except for a brief stint in season 5 where they're separated. But besides that, there's not really any straying. Hold on, my cat is freaking out. Mama, what's wrong? Come here. Come here. Come here. All right, well, if you hear meowing, I don't know what she's doing. So we're going to focus instead on Lorelai and Rory. Lorelai's on the left and Rory is on the right. I don't know why I chose these pictures. They were just the first ones that came up when I Googled their names. Lorelai had Rory when she was 16, and she left her parents' house and kind of ran away about a year later when she was 17 and got a job at the Independence Inn and worked her way from being a maid to being basically the manager of the inn. She raised Rory on her own without Rory's dad, who was around occasionally, but he really wasn't in the picture. He kind of comes back into the picture when the show starts, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the Gilmore Girls, a little summary of their personalities. Lorelai is funny, extremely, I don't know what the best words are, vivacious. She likes to tease. She loves movies. She loves her friends. She's very loyal to her friends. Bad relationship with her parents because of the whole pregnancy at 16 thing. That just didn't go over well for that family. And yeah, but she did a good job raising Rory on the right, who is extremely bookish, super sweet kid, always nice to everyone, really smart, ambitious, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or at least that's how she starts out. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Rory's primary romantic role model, her mother. Pictured in the top left are Lorelai's 4 main love interests throughout the show. We've got Christopher on the far left. That's Rory's dad, who, Lorelai has several relapses with him and even briefly marries and then divorces him in season 7. Next, we've got Max Medina. He's third from the left. He was Rory's school teacher her sophomore year of high school. And Lorelai did get engaged to him and then immediately broke it off, not immediately, broke it off literally the week of the wedding. He was the best. He was so nice, although I am a team Luke ultimately. Jason is second from the left. He was her father's business partner who eventually her father had to sue, or he sued her father or something, and they kept it a secret. And then there's Luke, who's actually the most stable of all the relationships. He's the diner owner in town, and they kind of spend a lot of time flirting. Luke pines for her, and then eventually they end up together. Seasons 5 through 7 are kind of like where they're on and off. Obviously, Lorelai gets married to Christopher in season 7, so they do have some off points. But we've also, in these other pictures, we have Luke with Lorelai's other couple of boyfriends. It always seems to come down to Luke and one of her current boyfriends fighting or arguing or having like some sort of like extremely blustery, like, I'm always here for Lorelai. Well, I'm always here for Lorelai. Anyways, so that is what Rory has grown up with as her mom's relationships. Clearly, we had a lot of things going on, basically leaving a man at the altar, keeping a secret relationship, relapsing with her dad all the time. It's, you know, it's a little tumultuous. So that's what Rory has to look at as she grows up. Let's get into Rory's boyfriends. Rory has 3 primary boyfriends throughout the regular series, seasons 1 through 7. The first boyfriend is Dean Forrester, whom she starts dating when she's 16 and a sophomore in high school. Dean pursues her first, takes the lead on a lot of things because he had a girlfriend before and Rory had never had a boyfriend or anything like that up until Dean. He was extremely sweet, very dedicated, had work, did sports, was a really nice kid. And he was also pitched as, you know, an athlete, but he also would read a lot of the books Rory would read and they would talk, and he was really smart. And that's how he started. So he kind of pursued her and she took an interest and they started dating and he treated her like a queen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's Dean. That was a fairly solid relationship for about a year until the end of boyfriend number 1. The end of Dean comes about when Rory falls for a bad boy. Rory levels up from emotional cheating, which she did for an entire year with Dean. And then she actually kisses Jess, the bad boy, at the end of season 2, which is pictured in the bottom left. She kisses him and then says, "Don't say a word," because she really likes him, but she's still with Dean and won't break up with him. She just emotionally cheats on him and then actually cheats on him at age 17. So that's her start. The show also kind of starts to make Dean dumb. Like, Jess is also a reader, like, despite being a bad boy, like, he reads all these books and he listens to all the greatest music, but he starts saying things to Rory like, "What do you and Dean even talk about?" Like, I bet she's like, "Well, you know, I tell him about," he's like, "What music do you listen to? What books does he read?" And she's like, "Well, I've shown him some stuff." And he's like, "Oh, well, it's an educational process, is it?" So it just dumbs Dean down a lot and kind of takes away his initial value as sort of a little bit more of Rory's equal. So over here, you know, in my summary, she likes Dean for an entire year before Dean is the one who gets tired of her stringing him along, and he breaks up with her at the town dance-a-thon, as pictured on the right side of the screen. She and Jess are just kind of going at each other at the dance-a-thon, like being mean, but it's only because they both really like each other. And then finally he's like, "I can't do this anymore." So that's sort of how that comes about. So that's Rory starting off pretty young with the emotional cheating, etc. What? My cat is back. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Come here. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Jess and Rory and Jess's relationship. Rory is older. They get together right at the beginning of her senior year. Not the beginning of her senior year. I want to say November of her senior year. The relationship is a lot more passionate. She's growing up, so there's a lot more, it kind of focuses a lot more on like the physical side. Jess, but it also, you know, goes from that, like you can tell like she really likes him, they're passionate for each other, but Jess is not as great of a boyfriend as Dean was. He doesn't call as when he says he will. He doesn't necessarily blow her off, but he's not as simpy as Dean was, to be honest. And Rory is used to Dean basically simping for her, and that's sort of what she's seen with her mom, having all these men fighting over each other all the time for, which is understandable. And so on the top right is Rory basically calling Jess and yelling at him for not treating her right, which I support because he wasn't being the greatest boyfriend. That was kind of the form their relationship took, but they really liked each other. They read a lot together, et cetera, et cetera. And nevertheless, despite this, she really likes Jess. You can tell the series sort of pitches it. It's more of a meeting of the minds. Like, he might be a bad boy and she might be your classic, like, bookish academic girl, but they have enough in common that it really, really works. Until the end of boyfriend number 2. Jess flunks out of his senior year of high school because he just stops going. And he had an agreement with his uncle that he could only stay with his uncle in Stars Hollow, where Rory lives, if he passed high school. And his uncle was like, "Okay, well, you can take the year over again, fine, like you can still stay here." And Jess was like, "I'm not going back to high school." So Luke was like, "Okay, you have to leave then." So he's forced to leave town, and up in the top picture is him seeing Rory for the last time. They'd sort of had an argument before, a major argument, because he got mad at her when she wouldn't have sex with him, which sounds really bad, which is really bad. So they had a fight. They didn't break up, but they hadn't talked. He sees her on this bus, and he sort of is like, hey, and she's like, hey, it's a really awkward conversation. He's literally moving. She doesn't see his bag, but he's leaving town and he doesn't tell her. She ends things officially when he calls her at her graduation in this bottom picture. She knows it's him because she keeps getting these calls and no one says anything. But it's Jess, and she's like, I think it's Jess. And look, I have to tell you, like, it's over. I'm going to college next year. Like, you didn't handle things right. We could have talked. And then she's like, I think I loved you. And that's how you know, like, despite everything, like, Rory really truly loved him, and like they were young. That's my opinion. I think they were young and stupid and just messed up a lot. And then they don't speak for a year. So that's the end of Jess. My mom is calling me. I'll answer it later. Then we have boyfriend number 2.5, Dean Forrester, regression, unfortunately. Rory goes away for the summer to Europe with her mom, and then she comes back, and she'd already found out that Dean was engaged to Lindsay, his new girlfriend. He got married early Rory's freshman year of college. He unfortunately still had feelings for Rory this whole time, and you see it because on his like bachelor party night, he shows up at Luke's diner drunk, and Luke is helping him out, and he's like, I love Rory, I love Rory. Basically, he marries Lindsay, loving another woman. Awesome. Dean, they get married, and then Rory starts to develop feelings for him because he starts working for her mom on renovations for the inn she's starting herself. And Rory has like a boy dry spell her freshman year, which is part of the reason why I think she starts to like Dean again, because she jumped straight from Dean to Jess and didn't really mourn him. And she also hadn't had a relationship. She didn't have anything present itself to her freshman year of college. Like, she didn't meet any guy she was interested in. So that left this really big vacuum. And I think that Dean was her first comfort, perfect boyfriend. And I think she just like felt that comfort, and that's why she starts to like him again. This is when Dean is emotionally cheating on Lindsay, even worse than he was, when he married her. And then he's actually cheating, as can see in this top right picture. Rory actually loses her virginity to Dean. She hadn't done anything with him the first time, hadn't done anything with Jess, even though she had wanted to, which was mentioned. They just never got around to it. And then she and Dean do it while Dean is still married, which is not good, I would say. So Lindsay finds out, and this picture on the top left is her throwing all Dean's stuff out the window very publicly in the town. And then even after that, Rory and Dean meet up, and that's wrong. But Rory and Dean sleep together several times before Lindsay finds out. The end of Dean, second time. Rory it's now her sophomore year of college. They date for a while. It's really hard because they're kind of distant, and he's working and she's doing Yale. Rory meets this guy Logan at school and has various interactions with his high class, really rich group of friends. And at one point, her grandparents are like, oh, she's dating Dean again, like that small town boy, like, and they're really uppity. So they throw a party and tell Rory it's just like their Yale connections and that she should come meet them. But really, it's all of their connections who have a son who is Rory's age, who is also single. So she goes to the party, and it turns out Logan, this guy at her school who she's on like the newspaper with, is there. So she's like, I'll just hang out with him and his friends. We're friends. Dean arrives at the party. She had invited him, but he sees her come out of the house to meet him, and all of like her guy friends from Yale follow her out, and they're like cheering because they're all drunk. They're like, whoa, yeah, Rory, just being just teasing. But Dean decides he doesn't belong there anymore with those rich people and abandons Rory in front of all her Yale guy friends. And Logan is actually the one, in this bottom left picture, he comforts Rory the night of that party, and he's like, it's fine. Like, let's go back inside and like, let's all get drunk. It's really fun. So that's what they do. And that's the end of Dean, thankfully. I'm sorry, Dean is my least favorite of Rory's boyfriends. He never should have happened the second time. Unfortunately, he brings out the absolute worst in Rory, and all things about the relationship the second time were just leave an extremely bad taste in my mouth. Boyfriend number 3, Logan Huntsberger. Rory and Logan start off a little differently. It's not necessarily love like she really liked Dean before they got together. She loved Jess before they got together. With Logan, it's just sort of a crush and it's a little more physical because you can tell Rory is growing up a little bit and she just kind of wants to she says she wants to have something casual with Logan because Logan is like very clear, like, I don't date, I don't have girlfriends, I just have girls. And so she's like, oh yeah, I'm fine with a casual relationship. Siri is talking to me. She's like, I'm fine with a casual relationship. So, you know, some of these pictures I'll explain. Top right, the night that Rory is like, look, Logan, I like you. I just want to see where things go. Like, let's get down to it. So he says yes. Bottom, okay, yeah. So they do this. Jealousy ensues. The top left picture is them at a party where they get different dates because Logan is dating other girls and Rory's like, all right, it's fine. She gets another date. She shows up with him and Logan gets super jealous and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm here with another guy. Like, we're casual, remember? So eventually this reaches a head and he's like, if you're gonna leave me because I won't commit to you, fine, I can commit. I can be a boyfriend. So over time, he becomes an excellent boyfriend. He's there for her during a lot of struggles throughout the course of their relationship. They do long distance, which is the middle right picture. He moves to London for work when he graduates Yale. Bottom left, her grandpa, something medical happens to him, something goes wrong, and he's in the hospital. And Logan like shows up. He choppers in from work. He's there for Rory and her family. Bottom right, they go on vacations together. It's her first truly adult relationship, and you can tell. And it definitely lasts the longest. There are a few offs throughout the 3 seasons, but she's with him pretty much 5, 6, 7, or part of 5. So I had to put in a couple of extra slides for Logan because while he was the longest relationship, he gets her into some really bad stuff. And I'm not going to put all the blame on him, but she's sort of in this whole other high class, upper class, expectant, a little bit entitled world. And she really takes part in this in like the worst way. Logan's dad gives Rory an internship because his family hates her. They think she's not good enough for him. His dad then builds her up at this internship and then at the end tells her she doesn't have what it takes to be a journalist. Rory literally can't take this criticism and she loses it. And I would argue her privilege has gone to her head. Like, she can't handle one person telling her she can't be a journalist. So she tells Logan she wants to steal a boat. Top right picture, they steal a yacht. Then left picture, she spends the night in jail because obviously they get caught for stealing the yacht. She gets 300 hours of community service. She drops out of Yale because she thinks she doesn't have what it takes to be a journalist and moves in with her rich grandparents who her mom ran away from. And she has to go to therapy. Eventually, when she goes back to Yale, this is just her saying, so I spent a night in jail, big deal. It was a whole mess. And it really starts to turn you off of Rory even more because she's just not who she started out with on the show, which while that is incredibly frustrating, it's also very interesting because I think a little bit it's the show's commentary that like her mom ran away from that upper class world and this world of entitlement of her parents, Emily and Richard Gilmore. But Rory, by going to a really good high school and going to Yale, is surrounded by these people and she becomes a part of it, which that's fine, but she becomes a part of the bad part of it. So furthermore, more trials. This is a little bit not Rory specifically while she's with Logan, it's her and Logan's trials. Eventually Jess returns in season 6 and he has actually got his life together. He wrote a book, got it published, and works at the publishing company, and you can tell he's a lot more mature, which is why he's the best for Rory. He shows up and finds out this is when Rory has dropped out of Yale, and he is so mad at her. He's like, he meets her and Logan. Logan decides she's like cheating or something like that, which shockingly in this instance, she wasn't. They have a huge fight. Like, Logan's like, why'd you drop out of Yale? And he leaves. She goes back in, and Logan had been being really a jerk to him at dinner, and they have a really big argument. And they storm out. She assumes that they're just taking some time because they had an argument. Well, Logan thinks it's a breakup and he sleeps with like 4 girls who also happen to be all his sister's best friends. And Rory goes to the wedding with, eventually they get back together, and she goes to a wedding with him, and she finds out that during their separation, he had slept with a bunch of girls. Like, she knew that he thought they had broken up, but she didn't know he'd slept with other people during that time. So she finds this out and she's like, what the heck? Like, you cheated on me. And he's like, I thought we were broken up, which they'd never decided that. So it's a gray area for sure, but I can really understand why she'd be so upset. So they have another fight. She storms off. And during this time, she cheats on Logan. I would say she cheats on him. She kisses Jess because she goes to visit him. Kisses Jess. Poor thing. Jess loves her still, but she kisses Jess. So more cheating. Okay, more cheating. I'm sorry. I'm pissed. So those are their trials. But she's like, I was just trying to get back at Logan, but I love him. And Jess is like, okay, bye. He's just an understanding king. And anyways, unfortunately, I did like Logan, even though I'm Team Jess. They do really hit their stride her senior year. They get a lot more stable. And despite his $1 million business failure, he recovers, he quits working for his dad and gets a job in California at the end of season 7. He proposes to Rory in front of her entire family at her college graduation party. And she's like, can we talk? She goes outside and she's like, I need to think about it. And the show really tricks you into thinking she's going to say yes. Newsflash, she doesn't say yes. She turns him down after her graduation. So yet another dramatic ending of a relationship at her graduation. And they break up in the penultimate episode of the season. And nothing is resolved on the whole relationship side of things for Rory. So I understand why she said no. She's literally 22. And the fact that she says no leads him to be like, I don't want to date you. I don't want to do long distance again while you're getting a job and I'm in California. So it's just really disappointing ultimately. In conclusion, Rory is not the best when it comes to men. Just as a little recap, she emotionally cheats on Dean with Jess. She actually cheats on Dean with Jess. She fosters a relationship with Dean while he is married. She sleeps with Dean while he is married. And bonus content, in the revival, she cheats on her boyfriend, Paul, some other guy, and often forgets he exists. And she sleeps with Logan repeatedly while he is dating someone else and then while he's engaged. But at this point, she's like 30. So she's a lot more mature now, still making these same decisions. It's extremely unfortunate, and it's just bad. Now I'm going to say my final piece. Rory is destined for Jess. In the revival, Jess is still in love with her. This is 8 years after the regular season finale, and he's still in love with her. He's pining for her. Okay? And furthermore, she never cheated on Jess. She never emotionally cheated on Jess. She never wanted to actually cheat on him, and he never cheated on her. So I think that says something. I think that the fact that, she also cheated with him in both of her other significant relationships says something. Unfortunately, that's an analysis and a conclusion that I can draw based on the show, but whoever she chose, when she chose to cheat, she cheated with Jess. Just saying. And I just ultimately think that a lot of Jess's failings in season 3, when he was an 18-year-old kid who had a really tough life and a tough family life, I think he just needed to mature. He was always ready to take Rory back. Even in season 4, when he comes back a little bit, he's still in love with her. And even in season 6, when he's like her wake-up call. Why did you drop out of Yale? Like, that is what drives Rory back to Yale ultimately. She starts to realize, like, Jess knows her. And he even says, he's like, I know you better than anyone. And just like the show gives you these little beautiful nuggets of him saying stuff like, I know you better than anyone. Like, why did you drop out of Yale? This isn't you. And it gets through to Rory. He's the only one who gets through to her. I don't know why we didn't get any sort of closure in the revival when he's still in love with her. I don't know. I ultimately cannot answer these questions, and I wish that I had the answers. So ultimately, that's a little bit of a summary. I left a ton of stuff out because otherwise this video would be like 5 hours long and you'd be even more bored than you already are. But that's my summary and semi-analysis of Rory Gilmore's romantic love life. So thanks for watching. Maybe there will be more Gilmore Girls content in the future, maybe not. Maybe there'll be a little bit more planned, a little more scripted, because this was entirely off the cuff besides the slideshow. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you at some point in the future.